We're going to kind of pick it up where we left off this morning, and I'm going to talk about success by design a little bit. What does it mean, success by design, when it comes to an instructor? There's a certain amount of success that comes from just activity alone, right? But by activity alone, you're never going to be able to get to a certain level that you can by making a very clear plan. So the goal for the day one student, for those of you who were here this morning, and remember, for the lesson one, we're trying to establish foot control because, in theory, if the student goes home and they are with their mom and dad, it doesn't matter what mistake it is that they make. If they do not make a foot mistake, they're going to keep their mom and dad safe. Am I right? But if they make a foot mistake, mom and dad, they are helpless. They're already nervous. And we've seen the trend, right? When students come to us who've been practicing at home, we can tell the difference right off the bat. Parents are involved. And the students who are struggling, what's the common theme? They're just not driving as much at home. And oftentimes, parents are waiting for at least that first lesson to be done by a professional before they take them out. So at the end of the 60 minutes, when that student goes home, parents may have a false sense of security, false sense of confidence in the student's ability. They may say, well, you did a lesson with them. All right, Billy, get in the car and let's go. Where did the whole foot system even begin? Raise your hand if you're a school owner here, private school owner. No one. I'll tell you that as a private school owner myself, so I've had, at the height of, so I ran my school for almost 20 years. Because I started a software company about 10 years ago, I ended up selling the school to my sister, who had worked for me about 5+ years. So there was a time where we were teaching about 2,000+ students a year. We had almost, 30 instructors. We had 16 cars on the road at any given time. So when the phone would ring and an instructor's calling, this is how I would answer it. I'd be like, hey, are you okay? Is everything okay? Because you never know, right? And this time, the phone call came from one of my instructors, and he's like, hey, everything's not okay. I said, what happened? They told me, I got there, and here's what the scenario was. The student was a day one student. It was towards the end of the lesson, and I'm very particular about my routes. They were off the route, and they happened to be taking a right turn at a traffic light that would have led to the high school. Now, those of you who've been doing this for a long time understand the hardest thing to teach a student is a right turn. Not parallel parking, it's a right turn. For new instructors, if you say, well, what do you mean a right turn? Well, think about how many steps that there are in a right turn, how many things that can go wrong. When you approach, well, number one, they have to remember which side the right is, right? Right or left when you talk to the student. Signal mirror blind spots. You have to position your vehicle for the right turn. As you approach, you have to check traffic. You have to decide what's the correct time to begin turning the steering wheel. As you're turning the steering wheel, the smoothness of the steering wheel needs to be there. If you turn it too soon, the back tire is going to go over the curb. If you turn it too little, you're going into oncoming traffic. Then you got to remember to bring the wheel back, because if you don't bring the wheel back, the car's going to keep going to the right. And then you have to do what? You have to accelerate so you do not disrupt the flow of traffic. If I had a brand new instructor sitting there, they're going to be like, oh my God, Prince, cognitive overload. That many things in a right turn, I don't really want to do this job. Too much. So in this scenario, the student was taking a right turn, which would have never happened on day one on a traffic light. And the way it was explained to me is student turned the wheel. They kind of just held on to it after turning. And then they accelerated, thinking it's brake. The instructor applied the brakes immediately. The vehicle stopped. Damage hasn't happened yet. But because the student's foot, there was no brake, it had already gone down, the student panicked, where is my brake? Realizing what was happening, and instead kept the foot on the accelerator. Now what happens is, if the accelerator and the brake pedal are applied at the same time by the instructor, if the instructor lets go of that brake, it's a bow and arrow effect. The car's just going to go. And that's exactly what happened, and they clipped the side of this sign. Nobody was hurt, just the vehicle was damaged. And then I started thinking to myself, and this was the very first time an incident like this had happened. And I really took it seriously. And I said, instead of saying, hey, you the instructor, what were you doing here? That does nothing. When you're leading a program, everything is your responsibility. So I said, what can I do so this doesn't happen? And I really had difficulty sleeping. And I started to think, and the thoughts were going through my mind, what if that student was with their mom or dad? What if there were people waiting at that intersection? Somebody could have died. And then I started analyzing it. I was like, what was the true cause of it? And then I started breaking it down, and I came to the conclusion that if foot control was not the problem, that could have been avoided. And we really started drilling that into students and started adding the foot control, foot control. Everything is about foot control because mom and dad can't apply that brake because they don't have it. You start with the feet. Then you worry about their hands. Well, think about this. Ever since a child is little and they're even pretending to drive, their idea of driving is this. Right? Their idea of driving is not moving their feet. So you have to bring it to something new. You say, hey, listen, Billy, I know when you're going to be driving, you're going to want to focus on your hands. Today's your lesson 1. We want to establish foot control. And the reason we want to do this, and you have to let the student know, do you see this? I have the brake. I can slow the car down or stop it. Your parents won't be able to help you if you did this thing. Just like we saw in the video where the student drove into the garage. It's a very common thing. And if we establish that, you're going to increase the likeliness of that parent being safe and successful at home. Nothing is 100%. The only thing you can do is analyze your program, the way you teach, and say, can I increase the percentage just by a little bit for success? And that's where the drill Simon says came from. And we started doing this. We said, I've got to establish muscle memory. When a basketball player goes through the free throw line and they're shooting based on muscle memory because they've just done it so much. That's why they have a rhythm. They just don't even think about it and they're just shooting. You want to get the student to that level that their foot moves to the brake pedal, not the accelerator, if there's an emergency. That's the biggest thing you can do on day 1 is establish foot control. And because kids are familiar with the game, Simon says, you can kind of trick them a little bit, say brake, gas, 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 brake, 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 gas, and see if they're doing it. Now, if you come across a student who can't win that game in that scenario and they keep making a mistake, the car is not moving. It's a non-moving drill. Why would you put this student in a position to move? Now they have to worry about their hands, what's around them, and their feet. If they can't do step 1, why are we adding step 2? Safety precaution right off the bat. Nope. I'm talking. Second drill. This one I call the RPM drill. It's fantastic, and here's how it even came about. There was a time where, I'm sure you guys have come across, you've got the student, they put the car in drive, when the time comes to go, they accelerate kind of quick, right? And it just goes, and you're like, whoa, 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 don't do this way. It's too late at that moment because the movement has already begun. You can avoid that ahead of time in a non-moving drill format. Now, ask yourself, why would a student accelerate so hard? They've never driven before. Why would they do this? Go-karts and video games, right? They may not have driven a vehicle, but they have some sort of a video game experience and go-kart. And what's the common theme there? In order for a go-kart to move forward, you have to push the pedal all the way down, correct? That's what they're doing. If they've played any kind of video games, any kind of racing game, they don't gently press that button. They're trying to go as fast as they can. There's just one movement. They're not understanding that there are stages to it. They're just going, go. We are not putting the student in a position to succeed by simply telling them, let's go. So I implemented this drill to see if I can notice a difference. So what I would do is, the car's on, it's in park, it's secure. I'll have them bring their foot on the accelerator, and when their foot is on the accelerator, I'll tell them, hey Billy, could you maintain the RPMs to number 2 for me? Now initially they might go vroom, but I'm ready for it. There's no danger here. I can tell the student, hey listen, do it a little bit gently. Let's try again. And I want to go, let's try that instead of vroom. And now Billy kind of puts a hand in. Let's say still struggling. I'll be like, hey, Billy, bring your foot back a little bit. You kind of scooted your foot forward, right? Sometimes something as little as the position of the foot can make the difference between them being able to control the gas pedal, the brake pedal, right? And now they're like, oh, they're able to kind of maintain it. They're looking right at it. And they're like, oh, wow, it's much different than the car at home. Because the car at home could have been a faster car, could have been a slower car. And then I'd tell Billy, hey, anytime you sit in a brand new car and you want to see how sensitive it is, when the car's in park, just kind of try that a little bit and you'll know how sensitive it is. I've suddenly put Billy in a position to succeed when the time comes to drive because he's done a mental rep. He's done this physically just a little bit, and now when the time comes, the thing that I noticed is the percentage of students being able to accelerate smoothly went up because they had just done this drill. Just a simple drill. For those of you who are coaches, understand how important drills are. Basketball, football, you name a sport, it has a certain drill because you know if you do this drill, when the time comes to perform, you're going to do better because you did this drill. If you're not a coach, I'm sure you've played some sort of sport and you're like the importance of repetition in things. Sometimes you have to add those things, think outside of the box and add that to the student. Now again, if the student is struggling with this, why am I going to have the student put the car in drive and go? They're not showing me any acceleration control whatsoever. This will also give the student an idea what it would be like when they're maintaining speed. Oh, I've got to kind of like gently put there. If I take what happens, if I apply what happens, just squeezing. So it's been a fantastic drill, RPM drill.
Wax on, wax off.
Wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off. Concentrate. Look at my eye. Lock on. Thumb inside. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, wax off. Wax on, 악서. 으쌰.
Mr. Miyagi would have made a good driving instructor. You notice right away he says, don't look here, look in my eyes. Oftentimes we have to tell the students, right? Hey, don't look down, look up ahead. Wax on, wax off drill came about again because of that same incident where the student accelerated. As you recall, the student turned the wheel and they just held on to it. Right? They were nervous. So now the car's not moving, and I would do a thing that so many people out there around the country have come and talked to me about this afterwards. Says, Prince, that's called dry steering. You can't do that. You're going to ruin your tires. I've done this thing for over a decade. I'd rather ruin my tires than ruin the vehicle, put the student in danger. I am doing this drill with the student, but I'm going to make sure the surface that I'm on is not full of random things or nails or sharp rocks. But I'm going to have the student sit there. I'm going to say, all right, Billy, turn the wheel one circle to the right for me. Good. Now bring it back. One circle to the left. Good. Bring it back. Now Billy is looking right at the steering wheel and I'm okay with it. Just having the student do this tells me a lot. What kind of hand technique are they using? Is it smooth? And the way they turn the wheel and they bring it back, it's going to tell me like, hey, if they have done something like this at home or not. And this would be the time, if you have a specific hand technique that you want the student to learn, this would be the time where you can teach them. The car is not moving. During a lesson, if you wait for the lesson to happen and, hey, I'll just talk about this during a turn, there's so many things we talked about in a right or a left turn that you have to focus on. It's too late. You are not putting the student in a position to succeed if you're not doing that ahead of time. We haven't even begun moving yet. Remember, day one student came to this spot. We did outside stuff, got comfortable, learned everything in the car, and we're doing these non-moving drills. And I'm gauging what type of individual am I dealing with. I don't want to put the student in danger. Now, sometimes fighting words happen between instructors when they say hand over hand versus side by side. You have to understand there's a reason why some people prefer one over the other. Who prefers hand over hand? Got it? Who prefers side by side? Room's divided a little bit. So side by side, it's kind of like, well, from Wisconsin, we call it like milking a cow, right? Now you can go in this direction. The hand over hand, again, hand over hand. What's the thing against hand over hand? The thing against hand over hand is if the student's hand is over the steering wheel at any point and they get into a collision, the airbag's going to open. When that airbag opens, because the hand is right in front of the airbag, the hand is going to fly towards the student and it's going to make contact with the face at the speed of the airbag opening. It's dangerous. There has to be a strong enough why for you to consider, hey, do I want to implement hand over hand versus the other? The decision is yours. I'm not here to tell you you have to do it one way or the other. But you have to understand, why would we teach one way? Whichever way you want to teach, car's not moving, teach that. You can look right at the student, you can look right at the hand, not in your peripherals. Some of you have been doing it a long time. You're really good at seeing what's happening on this side, but you can see over there, there, and you're like, you know exactly what the student is doing, where they're looking, where their feet are moving. You're fantastic. But you are still not putting the student in a position to succeed because they are not at that level. Why are we teaching these things when the vehicle is in motion? Cognitive overload. It's like teaching somebody Spanish while teaching them a math equation at the same time. Why not let them focus on one thing, show that they can move ahead, and then go to the next? Ever since I implemented this, and I would tell the student, hey, Billy, if you turn the wheel to the right and you don't bring it back, what is going to happen? And then they would tell me, oh, it's going to keep going right. And we don't want that, right? Nope, we don't want that. Now, when I would do wax on, wax off, right and left, I'm establishing what? Muscle memory. So I'll do it in 3 different ways. So I'll do it quick right, bring it back. I'll do medium speed, bring it back. And then I'll do a slow speed, bring it back. Now, why would I do it in 3 different ways? Because it all depends on the shape of the turn, correct? If it's a sharp turn, there's going to be a scenario where the hand movement has to be quicker. The car speed can be slower, but the hands have to move quicker. And then if there's any kind of arc, the speed of the steering has to change along with it. So I want to make sure that my student is prepared for all different types. Now, once they are comfortable turning the wheel, now I'll be like, hey, I don't want you to look at the wheel anymore. Let's look over there. Good, turn. Good, bring it back. Look straight ahead, bring it back. Look there, turn, bring it back. Just adding this significantly improved the first few right turns that they were doing compared to before. It's all about safety, right? Now, if a student is struggling turning the wheel right or left in a stopped vehicle, why would I have them do it in a moving vehicle? Unless I'm in a parking lot, it's wide open. Why would I take that chance? What good is it going to accomplish? You have to go at the pace of the learner when you're in a one-on-one situation. It's not the same as the classroom. In a classroom, you have to keep the flow, and if one kid isn't getting it, you're going to say, hey, Billy, we're going to have to talk to you after class, but we've got to keep this lesson going because we have a time limit. But when you're in a behind-the-wheel session, you have to go at the flow of the student. If the student can only take in a certain amount of information, do not overload the student. Any questions so far in my non-moving drills? Simon says, we understand why we want to establish foot control, right? And when you're doing it, we don't want the foot lifting up and moving this way or that way. Ideally would be heel is planted. What's the common thing we see if the student is like jerkily stopping? Oftentimes we'll see that their heel is not touching the ground and they're using their entire leg to try to control the pressure. It can be done, but it's really difficult. But if the heel is planted to the ground, this portion of your foot, it has a lot more control. You can kind of squeeze it down and up, much gently. A lot can be established in that drill. RPM drill, any questions why you would do that? What would be the benefits of it? Always understand, you have to understand the why. Don't just do things. Why? And some of the stuff that I'm saying, if you try it out, it's going to take more effort. Try it out and see if it works for you. And that's the thing that good instructors do is they say, let me try something new to see if it improves me or the student. Either it does or it doesn't, but at least you gave it a shot. Wax on, wax off, turning the wheel, bringing it back. Any questions? Okay.
Your hands are?
Nope. The fourth non-moving drill that we do is, I call it SRB for short, but we know we're going to ask the student to use their turn signals, right, when they're driving. We're going to ask them to check their mirrors. We're also going to ask them to check their blind spots. Car is not moving. You can establish this routine right here. Because the moment you tell the student to signal left or signal right, oftentimes, and you can look right at the student, they might take their hands off the wheel, make this shape, and try to do this, right? They just took their hand off the wheel. Car's not moving. You are paying attention to this. Therefore, you can tell the student right here and correct it in a safe environment. Say, Billy, I don't want you to take your hand off the wheel. Keep it right here. Click down, middle, up, middle, down, up, middle. Get them used to it. No, Billy, don't look at it. Look straight ahead. Just feel it with your hands. Now the student's like, all right, great. Because when the time comes, Billy's got these reps. Same thing with checking mirrors. We know oftentimes new students, when they check in the mirror, what do? It's like they're searching for gold. They're just staring in it. If it's a non-moving drill, you don't have the eye mirror, doesn't matter. Turn and look at them. Who knows what an eye mirror is? Actually, whoever was in Tim's class would have an idea what an eye mirror is. Raise your hand if you know what an eye mirror is. 2 or 3? So here's what an eye mirror is. So yes, the instructor has their normal rear view mirror where they can see what's happening. That's not what I'm talking about. An eye mirror is a special mirror that you can place in a vehicle, sometimes in the center, sometimes in the corner, and everybody has like kind of their own idea of which is the right way. It's designed so that an instructor doesn't have to turn their head in a moving scenario and look at the student's eyes. They can just glance into this mirror. If you want to take your teaching to the next level, order an eye mirror. It's like $12. It's like a little suction cup. So you're sitting there. You've corrected signals. Car's not moving. You can just turn your body and look right at the student. Hey, Billy, you're staring at this mirror a little too long. Oh, you're staring over there a little too long. I just want you to glance, Billy. Just do this, Billy. Look at me. Like this. Just look. That's it. That's all I want you to do. Let me see it. Good. That's good. Okay, now I want you to add signal and then this mirror once. Good. Turn the signal off. Very nice. That was good. Okay, Billy, we're going to add one more thing. We're going to add blind spots. Sometimes what happens is instructors will give like a list of 10 things that the student should check their blind spot at. And now the student feels the need, oh my gosh, I got to remember to check it for changing lanes, okay, right turns, left turn, leaving the side of the road, pulling over. Why not simplify it a little bit? How do we simplify it? Signal, mirror, blind spots, they go together, Billy. There's never going to be a scenario where you signal that you shouldn't glance in your mirror. There's never going to be a scenario where you signal, glance in your mirror, that you shouldn't check your shoulder. Because the reason you signaled was what? Because you're changing directions. We don't need to complicate it. Hey, Billy, every time you signal, I want it to be followed by mirror and your blind spot. Blind obedience. Don't overthink it, Billy. I just want you to do it. We're going to figure it out, but I need signal, mirror, blind spot. Now, you have to be clear. You said, Billy, you can't go signal, mirror, blind spot. Car's not moving. Signal, mirror, straight ahead. Blind spot, straight ahead. Now, when Billy's checking his blind spot, car's not moving, you can correct so many things. One thing, right off the bat, you know when you tell them to check the right blind spot and they'll look through the back window? You can correct that right there. Second thing you can correct is, check your left blind spot, Billy, and Billy does this. We know it's going to happen when they're on the road. If we know it's going to happen on the road, why are we waiting for that scenario to happen to teach this skill? Car's not moving, it's day one, non-moving drills. All right, Billy, I expect you to be able to signal. I expect you to check your mirrors. I expect you to be able to check your blind spots. And again, Billy, we don't want to stare at the blind spot. The car's moving. I just want you to do a quick check and look straight ahead. Show me you can do it. If Billy can't do it now in a non-moving scenario, Billy is not going to be able to do it when the car is moving. Because when the car is moving, you may not even notice some of the mistakes that Billy is making because you are worried about all those other things that you have to worry about on the road. You're scanning, you're searching, you're looking around. You're making sure Billy's safe. But in a non-moving drill, you've suddenly put Billy in a position to succeed. When I implemented this drill, significantly, and I can't tell you how big of an impact it had on students. It made it so much easier. All the instructors, after they tried it, they came back, they were like, wow, this is great, because what we are noticing is if we're able to correct this scenario in a non-moving environment, when the car is moving, they're making less mistakes. It's not magic. It was success by design. You were looking for a specific result, and you took certain steps to make it happen. Is every student going to succeed the same way? No, but you can do your part to simply improve the percentages. Does somebody in here, do you have a specific non-moving drill that you do that kind of reminds you of something similar that you'd like to share? Can anybody think of a non-moving drill that you've implemented? Non-moving drills are fantastic.
Reversing, going backwards, and then 12 without the back window.
Straight reverse? Yep.
That's how we do it.
Yes, no, absolutely. Because car's not moving, you can say, hey, bring it closer or away. Now, once you have done these, yes, sir.
I just have a question.
Yes.
Did you say to look forward between the mirror and the blind spot?
Absolutely. So whenever you're driving, signal, car's moving, mirror, car's moving, blind spot. So all those things, you've got to teach the student to look ahead, and that's why it's important that we do it in a non-moving environment so you can see, is the student looking forward or not? Because if they're not, car's moving, and when the time comes they made a mistake, you're going to be like, whoa, Billy, no, we don't want to do it this way. And now suddenly Billy's like, I thought that's what we practiced. Now we're going to add some moving drills. There are 5 moving drills that I do. The first one is the go-kart. Now, why do I have the go-kart drill? The idea of the go-kart, again, is what? I don't want the student to believe that they have to bring their foot on the accelerator to move the vehicle. I want them to know, hey, Billy, if the surface is flat, you leave your foot on the brake pedal, the car is going to move by itself. There was a student at the local DMV, over 18 student. They went there to take a road test, and the instructor came in, they sat down, the instructor said, all right, we're going to back out and we're going to go in that direction. So the student put the car in drive, their foot was on the brake pedal, and then, and this is a mistake a lot of students make, and instructors need to catch it at this point when you're teaching. A lot of students will immediately bring their foot and hover over the accelerator with no intention of actually accelerating. They'll just do this. They'll just bring it on there, and I'll be like, hey, Billy, I noticed you brought your foot on the accelerator. Did you want to press it? Be like, no, but just in case. I'm just kind of keeping it there in case I need it. It's there. And this specific student who went there for the road test had that habit, and it was never caught during any of their lessons. So what happened? They put the car in drive instead of reverse. They brought their foot on the accelerator. They had no intentions of actually pressing it. When they looked back and the car began to move forward, they panicked. And because they panicked, wherever their foot was, it went down, the car went forward and went inside the DMV. They're lucky that nobody was seriously hurt. Thanks to the modern vehicles, thanks to the airbag. Yes, ma'am?
Would that be because they were clutching in and being ready to let the clutch out and accelerate?
They did not. So when you say clutching in, you're talking about a stick shift, or are you?
A stick shift?
Yeah, so they did not. Yeah, they did not have a. Because usually, anytime when the student is doing stick, the left foot is always just going to stay there, and the right foot is going to maneuver around. But no, this was an automatic vehicle. And this is another reason, actually, you bring a really good point. Why is it that parents sometimes find themselves in collisions with their students when they're first driving? Because they were like, I remember learning from my parents, and what just happened here? Well, there was a time when majority of the vehicle were stick shift vehicles, right? And you had to have one thing magically fantastic in order for that vehicle to move. Foot control. If you had poor foot control, your car would what? It'll die right there. It's not going anywhere. But if the only way the vehicle would even move if the student had proper foot control. But now in automatic vehicles, it's just go. Electric vehicles are even worse. Raise your hand if you have ever driven an electric vehicle. So those of you who have driven it, whoever hasn't driven, I would highly suggest you go find a dealership and do a test drive just so you know what it's like, so you can talk to a student if they say there's an electric vehicle at home. The acceleration in an electric vehicle is crazy fast. It's faster than any muscle car I had ever driven. It goes, it's scary. And if a scenario like this happened where if a student is practicing at home in an electric vehicle and they accelerate, the damage is going to be significant. Anyway, go-kart. We get the student used to, hey, just keep your foot on the brake, just let go, let it move forward, stop, let it move forward, stop. You see how it's moving? This way, if they're ever at home and the parent says back out of a spot or pull out of a parking spot, they'll keep their foot on the brake, but you have to tell the student. Next drill is the stop and go freestyle. This is where I'll have the student just kind of accelerate. Good. All right, Billy, slow down and stop whenever you want. I just want them to control the location. Get used to it. But again, it has to be a nice straight road pre-designed, and you have to keep pointing in the rearview mirror. Look, Billy, no one's behind us. That's why we're doing this drill on the road. Now, if Billy's struggling and stopping, what has worked really well for me is I did this thing where I'd be like, all right, Billy, you keep jerking the vehicle. Let's try this. I don't want you to stop. And try that if ever a student is struggling with this. Straight road. Hey, can you just slow down for me? Good. Okay, Billy, slow down a little more. Good. Slow down a little more. Good. Little more. Don't stop. Little more. Keep going. Little more. Slow, slow, slow. What's going to happen? The car's just going to naturally come to a stop, right? No jerkiness. And I'll be like, Billy, did you just see that? The slower you are, the better you stop. Like a bad habit, right? If you have a bad habit and you suddenly stop it, if you're a smoker or you drink a lot of soda and you want to suddenly stop it, you suddenly stop it, your whole life's shaking, right? Just like that car, if you suddenly stop it, the whole car's shaking. But the bad habit, if you just simply slow the bad habit down, don't stop it, just slow it down, and next thing you know, you're not even doing it and you didn't realize it. Stopping a vehicle is the same way. Just slow down, because the student was thinking, there's only one step in stopping, this. But by introducing slow and slow and slow, you're like, wait a second, there's a couple more steps in it. Let me slow it down. Good, 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 stop. When I have the student do that a couple times, I'm going to be like, good foot control, Billy. That felt good. The way you were slowing down, that felt good. Now, when they're at home with their mom and dad and a stop sign is coming ahead, we know what parents are about to say, right? If the student doesn't slow down in a smooth manner. Whoa, 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 slow down, slow down. And the student's going to be like, my foot was on the brake, I was doing it. Well, what was the student not doing? The student wasn't making the passenger feel safe. You have to teach the student how to make the person sitting in the instructor's seat feel safe. So you say, Billy, how did that feel? Good, that feels good. Accelerate, oh, that felt nice, good. All right, slow down and stop. Oh, yeah. And we all know this. You know how like when the student is struggling and they finally get it, and you find yourself as an instructor at that moment where you do this. And then you remember you were kind of holding your breath for a little bit. Sometimes you just have to tell the student to breathe so you can also breathe. Hey, Billy, just breathe. It's okay. Breathe. You can see their hands, right? They're holding onto the steering wheel. You can see like their knuckles are going white. And you say, Billy, just relax your grip. Now take a deep breath. And you know how their shoulders go up? Say, relax. Bring it down. As an instructor, as you get more and more experience, you start picking up these cues. So stop and go freestyle. Then, I know I'm going to have the student stop at a stop sign or a traffic light, right? So because I know I'm going to have the student stop there, and if I don't have a lot of stop signs in a row, I'll just make them up. I'll say, you see that tree right there? Let's pretend it's a stop sign. Anybody behind us? No. Show me that you can stop right at that spot. They'll slow down, they'll stop. Okay, good, I like it. Let's accelerate. All right, you see that mailbox? Let's pretend that's a stop sign. Show me that you can stop right there. Slow down and stop. Nice job, Billy. Prior to us ever going to a stop sign, we've already done this. I know what Billy's capable of. I'm on the same page with Billy. Even Billy has more confidence suddenly. Be like, I know I can do this, right? Then 0 to 15. Oh my gosh, this is my favorite one. 0 to 15. I want everybody to steal it, and I want everybody to use this thing. This is fantastic. Has this ever happened to you where you're at a stop sign, you're checking traffic, everything's clear, the vehicle coming is at a distance, and you're like, all right, Billy, we're good to go, let's cross this intersection. And Billy moves forward. No, Billy, go ahead, you can just cross the intersection, and Billy's moving forward, and the car's kind of getting closer. And suddenly you're just like, oh, and you're looking for this accelerator that's not there. How many of you have an accelerator in your vehicle? Usually I get 1 or 2. Now you'd be surprised, they have those setups. They absolutely have those setups. So what I did was I started doing this 0 to 15 drill. Again, I started looking into every scenario that I can fix with some sort of a drill, right? I was obsessed with it. So the 0 to 15 came in, we'd have the student completely stop. I said, all right, Billy, I want you to get to 15 miles per hour for me. So student would accelerate to 15 miles per hour. I'd be like, great, now slow down and stop. Do it again, slow down and stop. Now when the time came and we found ourselves at that same stop sign, the percentage of students smoothly clearing it went up. Because the instructor now wasn't just saying go, the instructor was like, all right, Billy, let's get to 15 miles per hour for me. And Billy knew exactly what that meant. Same thing for, let's say you took a right turn onto a road that's 40 miles per hour. As soon as you took the right turn, you say, Billy, get to 15 miles per hour for me. Billy gets to 15 and you say, good job, Billy. Now 20, good. 5 more, Billy. 25, 5 more, 30. Nice job, keep going. All right, 5 more, 35. 5 more, 40. Baby steps. What about Bob, anyone? Now if I would have just simply told Billy, as Billy turned, get to 40, that's a big distance. And now Billy's afraid because 0 to 40 is a lot. But I simply told Billy what? Get to 15. And Billy's like, I know how to do that. And if Billy knows how to go to 0 to 15, and now I'm only adding 5, Billy can get to this. And Billy's like, this is great. I can do 5 more. Guess what? We just taught them smooth acceleration. All of that because we're not teaching when the time has come. We are not reacting to the environment. So many instructors are out there, they're just reacting. They find themselves in this scenario and they say, all right, Billy, go, 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 more. Come on, faster, 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 car's coming. It's too late. And the longer you've been teaching, the better you are. The worst position sometimes you're putting the student in because you trust your ability. You know you're not going to let Billy get into a collision, but it's not about you getting into a collision with Billy. It's about Billy keeping Billy's mom, Billy's dad safe. It's not about you. Oh, I'm so good. I can take them in this direction. I can have them do this, this, this. No. Can you please prepare Billy to drive at home with their mom and dad so they can pick it up because mom and dad are untrained? You're a professional, they are not. Help them out a little bit. Another thing that we do on day 1 is we do emergency stops because I want the student to feel like, and this is not an emergency stop where the student is slamming on their brakes. This is an emergency stop. We're going 10 to 15 miles per hour where the instructor is going to apply the brake. It does 2 things. 1, it's going to increase the student's confidence that in case something happens, you've got this under control. 2nd, they know what it feels like when the foot pedal directly under their feet kind of disappears a little bit. So they don't Panic. Who teaches in a Corolla? Come on, somebody? No? One more. Thank you. Thank you. That guy's my favorite. So all my cars, all Corollas. Well, why? Because after they had that whole fiasco of the car just not stopping, right? Toyota, going places even when you don't want it to. They made a software change. And the software change was, if you apply the brakes and the accelerator at the same time, the engine will just die off. It's not going to keep revving up. And it was fantastic because I felt like I was cheating compared to others. You should know the vehicle that you're driving in, what's going to happen if the student accelerates and you apply the brakes at the same time, and you want to test that out. But you definitely want the student to know what it's going to feel like when you do this. Because if they are not on the same page as you, they're searching for the brake pedal, and the only pedal that they're going to find that they actually have access to is the accelerator. They're not looking down, they're new. It's not, the muscle memory isn't there. They have just begun doing this. And you can absolutely put them in a position to succeed. Well, what's my cutoff, somebody? You're like, Prince, you're already going up above time.
You bring up 5.
5 minutes? I got 5 minutes. All right, cool. Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm going to give you a couple tips on my side that has worked for me in some other aspects of teaching. When the time comes for the day you're going to teach lane changes to a student, if you implement the non-moving drill prior to you going out, meaning you look at the student and say, all right, Billy, show me how you're going to change lanes. And you just look at them. You can check to see, are they signaling properly? Are they checking their mirrors? Blind spot, is that still good? Are they checking the blind spot, hands are moving? And finally, you tell Billy, all right, Billy, pretend everything's good. Go ahead, go into that lane. See how much steering wheel they move. And however much they move, I started telling them, Billy, even less, even less, even less, until they got to this point. I didn't even move it. It's that little, Billy. When the time comes for you to change lanes, I want you to move the steering wheel so little. And Billy's like, okay, I got this. And I said, Billy, one last thing. Don't unnecessarily slow down when the time comes to change lane. That's the biggest mistake. They're like, oh, okay. I said, yeah, because imagine the guy ahead of you, if they're driving, they can change lanes all day long. It'll never bother you, right? He's like, no. I said, but what if they slow down? He's like, yeah, then I'm going to have to slow down. I said, that's what's going to happen to somebody behind you. Now they're getting on the same page. Immediately when we leave the parking lot and are headed to a spot where we're going to do lane changes, I do a moving drill, moving blind spot drill. I just want to see, can Billy maintain speed and check blind spots at the same time or not? And Billy knows we're going to do this drill, so I'll say, Billy, can you check your left blind spot for me without changing your lane position or speed? And I just want to see, can Billy do this? Car doesn't move, doesn't slow down. And I'm going to increase my confidence in Billy's ability to check, right? Now when the time comes to actually change lanes, Billy knows how to do it. Billy has done a non-moving drill. Billy has done a moving blind spot drill. So when the time comes to change lanes, I make sure it's clear and I tell Billy to change lanes and I shut the double H hockey stick up. I don't want to talk to the student when they're in the middle of a maneuver. I don't want to teach them while they're doing it. All right, Billy, let me show you how to do lane changes. And I was guilty of doing this. All right, see how we're moving? All right, signal for me. Good. Mirror. Look, no one's coming. Blind. Look, blind spot. No. Let me hold the wheel here a little bit for you. Right? Change lane. Don't slow down. No. Pick up. Oh, that's too much. Good. You got it? Now we're going to do it again. We could have done a non-moving drill like 10 times. You're not giving the student cognitive overload because the student is like, you think the student is getting everything. Be like, man, I'm such an awesome instructor. I'm giving him all this information. The car's moving and this is great. And the student's like, oh my gosh, okay, he's telling me this. I'm trying to listen to him. Oh, there's a car coming. I don't want to get into a collision. All those things are going in their mind. But if they've done some of these drills, you have put them in a position to succeed. And that success did not happen by luck. That success happened by design. You meant that result to happen through these steps. As instructors, doesn't matter how long you've been doing it, keep trying new things. See if they work. Next time if you see me, I'm going to end this by showing you this so you can take a picture of it. You can take a picture of this. That's my personal cell number. Please don't call me. You can send me a text message. You can send me an email. If you if you have more questions and you're like, hey Prince, you were talking about XYZ, or hey, I have difficulty when I'm out there with a student, and is there a technique you can give me about this specific thing? I'd love to help you. How much time do I have left? 0 minutes?
We're there.
Well, thank you everyone. If you have questions, come to me. And the rest of you, thank you for being here.